this week, we took a bit of a break, though you all may not know it because who knows how far from now this will be posted. But we took a break and talked about what we wanted to do for this episode, and we decided in our first episode we talked about like our favorite movies ever, our favorite shows ever, games, whatever, like our favorite things ever. And we decided to take it down a notch and see how much our taste diversifies when all you do is go down to a 9 out of 10. Something that you're like, this is an incredible work of art, but it's just got that one thing. It's just got that one thing that's killing me. And even in us putting forward, each of us, one movie that's a 9 out of a 10, our taste went in 3 completely different directions.
Yeah, for real.
Yeah,
Completely different directions.
Freaking real.
What? Like, everybody can sit down and be like, Dark Knight's a 10, Lion King's a 10, Schindler's List is a 10, Jurassic Park is a 10. You go down to a 9, and it's like, oh, yeah. Man. We went in, I mean, we all have even 10s that are different, for sure. But, like, I mean, who thinks Jurassic Park is a 9 out of 10? Get out of here. You're lying to yourself, and you're lying to us.
You're a heathen.
So each of us picked one movie that's a 9 out of 10, and we all watched each other's. Did you guys watch all 3?
Yes.
Yeah, I did too. Yes. I even watched my own because it'd been years since I'd seen it, but I was like, I think I want to watch this again and talk about this. So we have 3 different movies. Before we talk about one specific movie, can you guys each just say what movie you guys picked and say why you picked it? Not go into it, just what movies we're even talking about.
I did Rush Hour, the first one, just because there's a couple things wrapped in it. Number one is nostalgia from when it came out when I was younger. And so I have a lot of like positive memories attached to it. And then another one is because it's incredibly funny. It's just such a timepiece. Like, not to sound like an old head, as I say, but like they just don't make films that kind of way anymore. They don't make action comedies that kind of way anymore. And so it's just a real standout to me. I
chose an animated movie out of Japan called Makia with the subtitle When the Promised Flower Blooms. Animes have a knack for having really long names for their shows or movies. I chose this movie. One, I know not a lot of people know it. And I chose it because I think in a lot of ways, in the proper hands, I think animation can actually have an edge over live action because it is essentially limitless. The kinds of stories you'll see told in animation are some stories you will never see told in live action because animation, not that animation's cheap to make, it's not, but the story presented in this movie, without talking about what it even is, I don't think you'll ever see it in live action. It is way too risky. It is way too risky. Can you imagine what the budget for that movie would have been in live action? Get out of here. Forget it. Yeah, forget it. Insane. It'd be out of the park. But then when it comes to like what the movie's really about, when people live in when you have a setting like that, you want the Two Towers, you want the Return of you want like constant action and planning and momentum and this and that. This is not, there's action in the movie. It's not an action movie. And having a movie in this setting, looking like this, being like this, be about what it's about would be incredibly a huge risk for a live action movie to take. So I just don't think you're going to see, I don't think you'd really see it happen. I think just when it comes down to what the movie is about, I find this movie to be one of a kind. So that's why I picked it.
I chose Barbarian because it's an experience personally for me that I know I will never forget. I saw it at an advanced screening. This is before I got press screenings and stuff, and where I'd get invited. Like I was in line for 2 hours, like wanting to go see this. Have no idea really what it's about. Like in the trailers, at least they made it feel like, oh, they of course casted the Pennywise dude. No.
Sure.
Like if people
Okay, I'm
know
excited
movies,
to talk about that because I genuinely, when you said the moment, I honestly, I wasn't sure if that was it or not. But we'll
Dude,
talk.
for-
We'll talk about it. We'll talk about it.
on a general public sense, it's factual. It was the moment. It encompasses what I kind of always want out of a movie, and that's to kind of pull the rug under my feet. Like, you get almost everything that you want in a movie like this in a horror sense, and it also has very heavy themes about gentrification and sexual abuse, while also being hilarious. Like, the movie is actually funny, which I did not expect.
Yeah.
So
it
it's
did
a
have
horror.
some good humor in it.
Justin Long's incredible. I love that actor.
So,
It just had everything for it for me. That's the reason why I chose it. It has horror, comedy, and and also heavy themes
And-
that I felt like were not treated inappropriately.
yeah. And one thing I do want to ask when we talk about these movies, I want us to talk about like when we talk about Rush Hour, like why wasn't it a 10 for Rich? Like what was the thing? And I, being like videographers and producers and journalists that we are, we're keenly aware of how much work goes into making any movie, even if it's not a good movie, and that's not going to go unappreciated here. And so some people have kind of like a little bit of a stigma when it comes to quantifying movies when they're in the industry. They don't want to give it a grade, they don't want to give it a number, because you feel like you're putting a number on someone's hard work. And I guess all I would really say to that is, if I talk about Machia and I'm talking about like the voice acting had little to nothing to do with the thing that bothered me. So it's like the responsibility with where the faults lie aren't necessarily going to be unlike the little guy, so to speak. But I mean, anyway, so I'm going to roll the die. The die is the dictator. I hope it doesn't land on me, because I really don't want to talk about mine first. I don't know if I'm ready to, honestly. But fair's fair. Chance needs to take its toll. 1 and 2 Barbarian, 3 and 4 Rush Hour, 5 and 6 Machia, and we'll see how it lands.
Okay.
All right. Survey says, dear Jesus in heaven, 4 Rush Hour.
There it is.
There it is.
So Rush Hour. I just scared my cat. I don't know why or how. Yeah, Rush Hour. I love that movie. It's a movie that I can watch. I mean, almost any of them. 1, 2. Is there a 3?
Yes,
there's a
2007. There was a 3.
Yeah, they're all great. They're all funny. They all have a touch of, again, like nice like family moments or like that kind of thing. You know, it's all grounded in people, like, you know, like actual people stuff, family. And you know, back in the day, there's a lot of stuff about like vengeance. You know, especially whenever it was like you had some bit of anything to do with martial arts or anything to do with China, anything, right? It was like always stuff about like, oh, so-and-so killed this person in my family and now I have to like avenge them, or that's why I joined this and so now I'm going to do that. Again, it was just like such a time in my life as a kid growing up being able to see something like that, which definitely had like inappropriate stuff in it. And I feel like it's parts of that for me that it's that stuff that honestly brings it down to a 9 for me, because it's like when there are things in a movie that either make me cringe or I want to skip past it. That is a thing that, like, okay, you know, it brings it down a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Like if I said it was a 9, it's not like it's a 90. It's like between like a 95 to like a 97.
Oh wow.
All right, like it's still up there. It's just like some of the stuff for me just did not age very well. And me having some of the yeah, and you know exactly what I'm talking about. Me having
I wasn't ready for it when it happened.
You know, it's just it's stuff like that, and there's things like that, and then there's things that like where it's how do I say, it has some things where it's like, oh, like I just don't vibe with, like, that's crazy, I can't believe that they got that off back then. There's that kind of stuff, but then there's stuff that like you think is funny and you'll laugh at it, but then you just won't tell anyone that you laugh at it. And right. I feel like it has a mix of like both of those kind of forbidden fruits, right?
Yeah.
Of like things that you know are like, you know, that things that give you the ick, as they say, right? Like things that are like, oh yeah, nah, like I but then there are things that are like that, like, you know, you shouldn't laugh at, and like when you're around other people in public you wouldn't laugh at,
right?
But when you're at home you're definitely gonna laugh at it. And it has like that kind of stuff in it. We're in a day and age where all those things were just laughed at, like openly. Like
yeah.
it wasn't like what it is now, you know? And I'm not a person that's like, oh, think like it's because everyone's gotten so soft now and whatever else. I think that like there are a lot of very fair criticisms for like just those kinds of dynamics. However, I think that it brings a lot to the forefront. I'm sorry if like a lot of this makes no sense, like,
no, I
or if I'm talking in weird circles, but like the interesting thing is that the dynamic between Chris Tucker and Jackie Chan, like, number one, would just being a dumb American that's just super ignorant, dealing with like an international like incident, right? I think was like incredible, because it just is what it is, right? And that's what's funny too, is like, because I've had these conversations with people where it's like, okay, you're gonna go, you know, overseas or whatever else, and like you have to realize that like almost no matter what you look like, they're just gonna call you an American. They're gonna treat you like an American, and what an American means to people across the pond means something very different than it means to us Americans. Like when you actually listen to what like a lot of people around the world think about Americans, it's like very much like how we're portrayed in that movie, where it's just like we're loud, we're braggadocious, we are very ignorant of other cultures and the way other people do things. We always think we know the best of whatever else. And so it's like even when you look at his superiors, right? The like, what were they, like the FBI or something like that?
Carter's superiors?
Yeah, Carter's superiors. The ones that like didn't want him there. And yeah, it's like even them, like they were slick stupid and they were getting played too. You know what I mean? So it's like the whole thing. So it's like from that perspective, already I think that there's just like a lot there. and a lot to like dig into. And I think that I don't know what other people got from it, but I feel like what I got from it, watching it, it wasn't, and what I mean is like subconsciously, like I'm trying to like analyze it.
Yeah,
now,
yeah,
but like I think that part of the thing that I got from it and what I enjoyed from it was just having a little bit more of an outside perspective of like Americans are not always the like smartest people. We're not always the ones that know everything, whatever. Like there's all kinds of other things that are going on that we don't quite understand, and that like even when we have these like international relationships or whatever, and are supposed to be doing some sort of good, a lot of times we're just as clueless, and sometimes we're even like causing the problems. And it was just like a kind of like a fun way of like exploring that. I really enjoyed the writing. I can only imagine the amount of like improv and stuff like that went on.
There was.
The amount of riffing.
I read about it. There was.
And that kind of thing. So, it's just like being able to see that and to see the gel of those things, and of course like the physicality was incredible. The sheer magnitude of what was going on there, right? Like the set pieces and all that was just insane.
Yeah.
Right? Like just crazy. The stunt work, of course, it's got Jackie Chan in it, so it's going to be incredible. And he's always got his team of people and that kind of thing, which is always amazing. And yeah, that's a movie. It's one of those movies where I'm glad that it was made, and I'm glad it was made when it was made, and I'm glad it was made by and with the people that it was made by and with.
Yeah.
I think it's a real gem.
What you said before was like nail on the head for me when we were talking about why we picked each movie. Was when I was watching it, I was like, it feels like a style of movie making that's not here anymore. Because honestly, it almost feels like movie making changed in a way where when it changed, it had to almost like be bad again before it got good again. And it made it feel like this kind of movie making was at a point where it felt really refined. Like if I were to pause the frame in certain action sequences, I'm sure I could find things like, oh, that's not what his face looked like one shot ago. I'm sure I could find that type of thing. But the editing and the shooting was so fast and so fluid that I didn't really even notice it. I thought the characters were like innately likable. Like, yeah,
yes.
Chris Tucker, like when Jackie Chan's about to like fall to his death, he jokes a little too long, and I'm like, okay, come on, wrap it up, go help him, like seriously, your buddy's about to eat it, go help him. Like, there's the little things where maybe he jokes a little bit too long, and it feels like the elephant in the room is when Jackie Chan sits at the bar, looks at the bartender, and goes, "Sup, that, like, and I'm not gonna lie, when that happened, I did laugh because Jackie Chan sold me on the role of being a hapless tourist who did what he thought was like, he saw Carter doing it, and he was like,
yep.
Oh, it's like a term of endearment. Okay,
yeah,
I'll file that away for when it would be useful. And it's not useful. It's not.
It is the opposite of useful.
It's not So when Jackie Chan read that line, not just the line itself, the delivery was.
Yes.
Like I made a very loud sound in my room when I was like, oh.
Yeah, because you're not expecting, like, it's the last thing that you're expecting to ever hear come out of Jackie Chan's mouth.
For
ever.
sure.
And
his delivery was so damn funny. Because the part that he's playing, is completely naive to any semblance of gravity to what he's saying.
Yeah. And on top of that, he genuinely doesn't understand what part of that he said wrong.
Yeah.
He's like, what did I say wrong?
Which part of that was the bad part?
Yeah. Yeah.
Also, Jackie Chan was in his 40s. I was expecting him to be in his 30s for this movie. He was in his 40s for this movie.
That's insane.
He put in some incredible work in this movie. Also, an actor I did not know was going to be in this, Tom Wilkinson. I love Tom Wilkinson. He's the guy who played Falcone in Batman Begins.
Yep.
Love it.
Yeah, that's power you can't buy. That guy.
Right.
I love him. I think he's just a terrific actor. I'm very sad that he passed away, and I don't even think I realized it until I saw the In Memoriam in the Oscars this year, and I was like, whoa, slow down. When did that happen? When I first saw him, I thought to myself, he could be a bad guy in this movie.
Oh, I immediately knew.
But I filed it away because I was like, what if this movie decides to, not do the thing? But then it did the thing. And I was like, all right. Like, I was fine with it, honestly. He's such a good actor. I also just want to put out there on the table, on the, even without reading how absurd this is on IMDb, even watching the movie, I was like, I'm sorry, you want $20 million in 20s? You want $10 million in 10s? Those two demands alone are 2 million individual bills. That is completely absurd. Completely absurd. Like there's no suitcase in the world that would fit all of the bills these guys are asking for. But no, Richard, I think you hit it on the head in saying I don't look at this movie and say to myself, like, what a relic. But I do see it for the kind of sort of pseudo artifact that it is. This style of filmmaking at that time feels very refined. It felt like the buddy cop genre hit. I think this is kind of like in the top echelon of buddy cop movies. These characters are innately likable. I think Chris Tucker did a pretty good job with his improv, all things considering, even though in the bloopers after the movie, he can't say Chelsea Clinton.
Yep. He just keeps screwing it up.
He just kept messing it up. What's the line? Kenzie Clinton? I really liked this movie. The only part of this movie where I just said to myself, nope, turn your brain off. Just let the movie be what it is. Shooting C4 does not blow it up. It doesn't. Shooting C4 does not blow it up. And I knew it was going to happen, but I was just like, nope, turn it off, Tim. Turn the brain off. It's going to blow up and it's going to be funny. And it was. And the little dance he did after it blew up when he's like, good job, me, was like, all right.
Yep.
Elizabeth Pena did an incredible job, and I like the role that she plays in the movie. The little girl playing, why am I blanking? Su Young.
I think it was Su Young.
Su Young. I loved her role in the movie, and I thought she did a fantastic job. I loved her relationship with Jackie Chan, and I honestly love that, like, apparently she's a good student, because she tore the living out of that guy's face when he tried to kidnap her.
Yes.
I liked that she wasn't helpless. I liked that she was clearly an attentive student. I'm kind of with you. Like, this might be a 9 for me, too, if I think on it a bit more. Like, at no point in this movie was I, like, bored. At no point in this movie did I feel like it lagged or sagged. Like, it was just... The whole movie was very fun. This is a really fun movie. It does have interesting things to say in terms of... because it takes place on the last day of British rule, it said. So, I mean, there's... And then he ends up being the bad guy. So, I mean, yes, there are the... I wouldn't even call them undertones. I'd call them in your face tones? Is that overtones? I don't know. Of imperialism at play. But it wasn't just imperialism. It's the notion that Juntao put in a bunch of hard work into obtaining these artifacts, and now they're just gone because the fact of the matter was they were never really his to have in the first place.
Yeah.
So I liked this movie a lot. I mean, if you guys want to do like talking about individual specific scenes, that's fine. But you could take it from here, Jack. I've given like the general gist of how I feel about it.
And I think for me, this is the definition of a good Saturday morning, afternoon film to put on. Like if you've got nothing going on in the day and you just want something to play in the background that's really fun and exciting and has two great charismatic leads, this is the movie for you. I would give it a 7. What I value a 7 is a good movie. Like it's good. It's good. 8's great. 9's amazing. 10 is perfect, obviously. But for me, it's a 7 because it's a movie that like I understand probably the importance of what it was for during the time. Like, and I agree with you. I feel like these movies do not get made anymore. And if they do, they suck. Or if they do, they're very few far in between that are actual like good quality, simple films. And I think that's kind of like what this movie does. It harkens back to that feeling like watching it today of the simpler times with Hollywood where, hey, here's like $10 million. Go do something. Like I'm assuming that this budget wasn't probably that much. Like if anything, maybe 30 million, but I just because of the cast, especially Jackie Chan. But it just gave me that feeling of these people definitely took their time with the stunt work. Clearly, Jackie Chan, he does the stunts. And has some amazing moments, fight sequences, the choreography. I love it. The best scene is definitely in the third act when he's hanging off, how they made it look like. Number one, either that really happened, or number two, those are some pros that genuinely made it look like he was about to, like he fell down, like so many feet.
Yeah.
Like it was great. Like if it was CGI, top-notch work to that team, and if it was real, holy crap, Jackie Chan, take my money right now. Like awesome stuff. So that was the top-notch stuff that I can definitely tell they took their time in was we want this to be a fun, action-packed experience for people from start to finish. And bless God that this movie is 98 minutes long because we are now in a day and age where the normal runtime for a movie is 2 hours and 15 minutes to 2 hours and 45.
Yeah, it's gotten a lot longer.
And I like that. Don't get me wrong. I like me some Oppenheimer. I like me some 3-hour, documentary feel like movies about bombs. It's awesome. But this is just a good movie to put on and just like put your feet on the table, get your Coke, get your popcorn, chill back and watch a good time. Like that's the definition of a good time movie. That's why I give it a 7. Like there's nothing, at least to me, truly special, at least in my opinion, that was like, whoa, I can't wait to rewatch this in like 6 months. It's just not for me in that sense.
You have a good eye, Jack. The budget was $33 million. That's
Yeah.
also just about what it made on its opening weekend. The worldwide gross was, IMDb approximates, $244.7 million. So this was a huge, huge success. And it's
Huge
no
win for
wonder
them.
that they did 2 more. There's an IMDb entry for a 4th one with one of the same. So it's the same director did all 3. Which
Brett Ratner.
Automatically, I don't anticipate 2 and 3 to be as good, but I'm intrigued to see them with the same writers and directors helming it.
Yeah, I heard the third one was terrible. At least that's what I heard.
I haven't seen it at all.
I don't remember much of it.
The funniest scene that I don't think was meant to be funny was the moment where the villain is like, yeah, I want all this stuff, whatever. And then they're like, shut up, Jackie Chan. We're going to go in this building and we don't care what you say. Boom! All those guys die. And what does the villain do right after that scene? Just casually walking like, hey. And then he starts, oh shoot, he actually saw me. I'm like, that is the funniest scene in the whole movie, and I'm pretty sure that wasn't supposed to be funny. Like, I genuinely don't think that was supposed to be a funny moment because he was walking like he's some BA master plan villain,
yeah.
and he's like,
And he's immediately
oh,
found.
Shoot, the cops saw me, and like to me personally, I like it's a fine scene, but that moment took me out where it was like that was not needed. Like this whole chase scene, like there literally was nothing in that moment that happened other than just pure entertainment. Like it did nothing for the plot. It just was like, let's just have this funny moment where, oh shoot, I guess they saw me when I was clearly making it as obvious as I don't know why. I that was like the biggest thing I wrote down in the film. It just caught my attention. It was my favorite moment next to the bar scene with Jackie Chan. Yeah, I heard about that scene. I've never saw it in context.
Oh, I didn't know
That
about
is,
it at all.
Like,
I
just
know
knew
about
that was
at all.
I knew that he said some word.
Something.
He said some word.
Said something.
And I'm like, wow, they don't make movies like this anymore. Like, that was literally the thought I made. I'm like, yeah, you don't see that happening in 2024.
No.
You're canceled. You're canceled. American Pie, you don't see those kind of movies anymore. 40-Year-Old Virgin, you don't see those kind of movies. Like, it gave me that kind of feel, like that smaller budget comedy film. And Rush Hour was like, obviously like a perfect sentiment of just that simplistic comedy approach that I really do miss, and that buddy cop feel. I love buddy cop movies, and I think that was the reason why I was very interested to watch this, is because you don't, like I said, see that a lot, but also the chemistry. The chemistry between Jackie Chan and Chris Tucker. And I'm not going to lie to you, when I was watching the movie, Alicia was shocked. My wife, she was very shocked that I didn't see it. I'm like, yeah, it just never came across like on my plate. It just never really was on my list. And I say this because it's a positive later on. I thought Chris Tucker was so annoying. Hey guys!
Yes.
Hey!
Yeah.
I'm like, shut the frick up. But then Alicia told me, yeah, that's kind of a thing. Like, people will say he's really annoying, but then as you let the movie just kind of keep going, you get used to it. And you start to fall in love with the character. And I completely agree. So the first 5 minutes, that opening scene with him in the back of the trunk with that one dude and the whole C4 situation, I'm like, bro, if he's going to start talking like this and acting like this the whole time, I am out. I am done. But then I let the movie keep on going. I'm like, okay, he's actually really funny. I like this Chris Tucker. He's actually really, he knows what he's doing. He's got the chops.
I'll say two things. I'll interject two things. One thing about what you just said with Chris Tucker, like, yes, he was very annoying, and the thing is that he's very annoying to everybody. Like, across
Everyone.
It's like, I'll say, and what I'll say alongside that is that, again, just from a cultural context, it's like in my community, like, we all know somebody like that. That's 100% somebody's cousin. That's like, we all know somebody like that, and he is annoying to all of us. He's the same way, smooth talker, fast talker, right? Like, just always talking a million words a minute. Is always on some type of scheme. Always trying to smooth and get up to women in some kind of way, and most of them are just not bothered with him at all, like, that kind of thing. But he does kind of have a good heart inside, but he's just wrapped up in just chaos and just chaotic energy, like, so it was like, so yeah, like, just to affirm what you're saying, like, yeah, like, he's annoying to everybody. I feel like there is. Oh, she just went crazy for whatever weird reason. Yep. Now she's gonna.
For cat reasons.
Oh, now she's just gonna perch under the. Okay.
Under the computer.
Yeah. So yeah. I think, though, again, with like a little bit of, like, from a community standpoint, it's more so like he reminds us of people we already know that are just like that, and so, like, his antics are like, of course they're like funny to everyone, just because it's like he's just such a flamboyant and just he's just insane. He's just a crazy character, a larger than life kind of character.
Yeah.
But just knowing like, oh yeah, that reminds me of so and so, or that reminds me of Daryl at the church, or that reminds me of whatever, like that kind of thing. And then the second thing to your point about like jokes not being the same way anymore, I think the reason why that worked so well was because it was a real joke, right? So like, it wasn't a statement, it wasn't a some sort of like think piece, it wasn't a jab, it wasn't like, it was literally like just straight up situational comedy where you just had a complete misunderstanding. It was like a Seinfeld episode, where it was like, I could just imagine like George seeing like black people greet one another a certain kind of way and then trying to do the same thing, and then like everyone believing he's a racist, and now he goes out of his way to prove he's not a racist because he's not, but he'd seem like, you know what I'm saying? It's like, I can already see that playing out, except it's not George, an American. Instead, you have this guy from China that's in a completely new place, but who's super friendly and who's very, like outgoing, and like he's in a new place and wants to say hi and greet people and make them feel, comfortable and all this other kind of stuff. And he just is not saying the right thing, or he said the right thing up until the very end. And that's the thing. It's just like, but it's a joke that is made with like sincerity. It wasn't making fun of him as a Chinese person, and it wasn't something that I felt was like, ooh, how can we slip in the N-word, right? It was like very much like, oh yeah, this would actually kind of make sense in this situation.
Yeah.
Like it fell in line with his character, and it fell in line with the environment that he was in, and with him being with Carter, right? Like, so it made sense. It all made sense. It was just shocking when it was like, what's up, and once he gets to that, you're like, oh
no.
It's like in real time, your mind, it's like, oh my God. And
Felt
then
like a punch
and
in
then
the
when,
gut, but like
laughter. And then when he says it, you're like, oh my God, he actually said it. But it was a thing where it felt like an actual joke. It didn't feel like someone was trying to slip in the N-word real quick,
right?
Because they thought it would be edgy,
yep.
Or they didn't try to make you like, oh, look at Mr. Funny Chinaman, no understand English, right? Which is another thing, right? Because they hit on that several times, especially in the beginning when Carter is again on his like racist American stuff, like, oh, you don't understand the words, right? And it's like, and he's like, yeah, I talk English. Like, I understand what you're saying. You just never bothered at. You don't shut up.
I love that
right?
scene.
It's like,
that was
like,
one of my favorite parts when Jackie Chan. I gotta find exactly what he said because it was so damn funny.
Yeah, but so to your point, Jack, I feel like that's kind of what has shifted. I think that yes, in some way, people have become hypersensitive. I think that has become a problem, and the hypersensitivity has affected people's sense of job security and that kind of thing. So I do think that's real. I don't think that's false. However, I think that where we're at is a lot of things just don't feel sincere. A lot of things feel like they're just done just because it would be edgy,
yeah,
or because it would cut across the grain, which for some people, that's fine. That's a fine sense of humor. They like edgy things. But we're turning to a world where people don't like edgy things. Like, we're kind of swinging out of that to where people want, I think we're kind of swinging out of that. And because of that, there's like this upheaval of acceptance when it comes to certain kinds of media. But what that means now is that we're going through the that awkward hair growth phase, which speaks to what you were talking about earlier, Tim, as far as like when movies got to a certain point, and then it's like, and then we went to a point where those kinds of movies got bad, and we're finally getting back to a time where the movies are getting back good, right? Mm-hmm. And it's like that thing of like, you know, when you get a haircut, and then, you know, you're waiting for it to grow out to wear this certain kind of style, but it's like you have that in between time where it just looks terrible. You know what I mean? So I feel like that's kind of where we're at. I think it's like we're in kind of an adjustment time of people trying to figure out like where are different people's boundaries, what kinds of stories actually resonate with people, and what is the new language that we're speaking, right? Like where's our culture actually at now? Because we can't look at things of yesteryear and do things in the exact same way. However, we can always use the same principles. And I feel like the approach that was taken in that movie was sincerity. It was a very self-aware film, right? Like it was very aware of racism. It was very aware of prejudice. It was aware of all those things because it called it out multiple times, you know? Sexism, not so much. There were aspects of it where it was aware, and that came by way of the counter of oh, you said her name earlier. I forgot her name.
Elizabeth Pena?
Already. Yes. Yes? Who was the bomb?
Yeah, that's her. That's the actress's name. Yeah.
Where it's like, you know, Carter is always making these advances, and she's like, dog, like, you gotta chill. You know what I mean? It's like, he's seen as a pest. You know what I mean? And that's how he comes across. He doesn't come across as just some, you know, valiant guy just trying to, you know, there's just a strong love that he has, and, you know, like that kind of thing. You know, it doesn't like make him into some sort of hero. He seems like a pest. Mm-hmm. Like he seems like a guy that is just going to do his best to just wear her down, you know, and we don't see him as a hero because of that, and they don't try to make him a hero because of that. And I think that like it's those things, like as principles, like that amount of like self-awareness, and like none of us would call it like a SJW movie, right? A lot of people would take a surface look at it and say the opposite. Mm-hmm. Right? Like, oh, I can't believe they said this. I can't believe they said that. Right? There are certain things, like I said, for me, which is what makes it a 9. That's like, no. But there are a lot of like ideals in it that are actually representative of today. They're just in a different skin, ironically, right? Yeah. But like it's the same. But I think, like, to your point, Jack, like I think that things have changed in a way of like there are certain things that can no longer be said or done, but I think that's more like aesthetically. I think, however, from a principle level, like I think people can do virtually whatever they want, but it has to be done out of sincerity, and it has to be done out of an actual understanding of those cultures and of those like contexts, you know.
Yeah.
That's what made that joke work. I feel like if you took it outside of the context in which it was done, it would not have worked. You know, like it would not have worked at all. It would have been very, very bad.
And to your point, Joseph, you're right about their chemistry. I think it's fantastic. I think part of what kept both of these characters likable, as each of them are kind of like navigating the other's cultures throughout the movie, like when Tucker goes to get the Chinese food and he's yelling about selling him a box of grease. Like, how could you this, that? But then he tries it and he's like, actually, this is pretty good. That's part of what makes these characters likable, is that they both maintain like a willingness to learn, to try, to actually venture outside of their box. And once they actually do, they're like, oh, I like this. Like they're not completely closed off from the ideas of trying something new. Neither of them, and it's part of what like keeps them likable. Is that they're not just like they're not what's the word I'm looking for? They're not gonna like go to their grave trying nothing new. Like Tucker's character's like, okay, I don't normally do this, but I'm gonna try it. Jackie Chan is like, this is not the kind of place I would normally go, but I'm here for a good cause. I'm going to do it. I'm going to go outside of my box here. I'm going to go outside of my comfort zone here. And then he takes a shot while he's outside of his comfort zone. That was a really bad shot to take.
Yeah.
I love the chemistry. Rest in peace to not one, but two actors in this movie. Tom Wilkinson and Elizabeth Pena also passed away 10 years ago.
Oh.
Yes. So I kind of just found that out just a few minutes ago. This was a really good pick.
Solid.
I messaged my mom after I finished watching the movie. I was like, because when I saw this movie, it was on TV over half my life ago, and it wasn't from like beginning to end. You know, there's commercial breaks, and I remembered pieces, but I don't remember all of it. But being able to watch it, just hour and a half, boom, 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 all the way through, no commercials, no nothing. I was like, this movie's hysterical, dude. Like, there's, I don't think like 3 or 4 minutes didn't go by where I cracked up at something. And yes, a lot of the some of the dialogue Chris Tucker said, I was like, that has to be improv, because I just can't imagine. There's a scene where they're ushering everyone out of the building because there's a bomb threat. And there's a lady running by, and Chris Tucker, trying to get everyone out, goes, titties, 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 get them titties out of here. Not like that. Yeah. Like he's, get them out of here, get your titties out of here. And I heard that, and I was like, what screenwriter would write that? None. That is, like, you can kind of tell, you can see that there's improv in there. I just can't see someone in the back room at 2 a.m. being like, I've got to get this done. Titties, titties, titties. Get them titties out of here. That should clear them out of the building. Yes. Like, I just don't.
Right.
I don't see that happening. Yes, a lot of his stuff was improvised, which is always kind of scary, because sometimes some actors show up on set feeling like what their instincts are better than the screenwriters. And I couldn't tell you what anybody's attitude was on the set, but the final product, I think, came out really good. This is also back in the era. This is something we don't see anymore, I feel like. Because I feel like when movies end, they kind of want to leave you with a vibe or a feeling or a this or a that. Like, neither of the other movies, Makia had a very short post-credit something. Barbarian had a couple mid-credit somethings. This movie had bloopers. The movie almost wanted to tell you, hey, you saw a fun movie, but we want to show you it was fun to make. It doesn't leave you with a vibe or a tone that tells you something about the story of the movie. Like, Barbarian ends and you're like, wow, that was intense. Makia ends and you're like figuring out what to do with your life. But this ends and you're like, that was really fun. And they had fun doing it. Like, not just that the characters were fun characters. These actors, this group, had a fun time making this movie. And it kind of made you even feel better about the movie you just saw. Like watching Jackie Chan try to do a move, mess it up, and laugh with his stunt team, or laugh with Chris, or laugh with whoever. The laugh as he can't get the name Chelsea Clinton out of his mouth. Or laugh as Jackie Chan accidentally does something more impressive than the original stunt they planned. Bloopers at the end of a movie, I also feel like, is kind of an artifact. Pixar even did it with like their animated movies. They made like CGI bloopers, which actually were still actually pretty funny. But putting bloopers at the end of your movie, I don't know what the newest movie is I've seen that did that. I don't know what it was, but I can tell you it was not within the last 12 years. At least. Minimum.
Yeah, it'd be a huge faux pas at this point.
Yeah. Like, imagine if
Yes.
Dune 2 ended and they were like, and now some of the wacky things that happened on. Imagine if Oppenheimer ended and you're just watching Cillian Murphy flub a line for a minute and a half in the credits after. Like, that's not.
But it's not even like funny. He's just like yelling. He's like yelling. He's like, everyone, shut up! I'm trying to channel this character.
Because, I mean, a movie like Oppenheimer wants to leave you with, like, wow, that was intense. That gave me something to think about. And not like, I'm sorry, Chris, what was the line again? Like, it's not. I feel like that is such an artifact of filmmaking now, because that sense of fun is not the kind of impression that even comedies want to leave you with anymore. Even comedy movies I see in the theaters don't have bloopers at the end of their movie. You might YouTube them or find them in special features, but that doesn't mean that everyone is going to see them. That doesn't mean that that is going to be the final impression someone has at the end of the movie. And I actually feel like for this movie, it was a good call. I liked the idea that people had fun making this movie. I rolled the die, 1, 2, 3 Barbarian, 4, 5, 6 Machia.
Before we do
battery.
that, I need
Battery
to change my
change.
battery.
Oh, battery. Okay, let me look at mine. Yeah, I should change mine too.